Hey guys, Jugs here. I know I'm not on camera, but this B-roll footage is relevant to the review I'm doing, so just hear me out for a bit. Now that I have your undivided attention, let me give you some background. Growing up in New York, I have been exposed to trains my entire life. Now the system ain't perfect by all means, but it does its job from getting from one place to another in a timely fashion. It is expected for trains to be on schedule most of the time, unless you take the L train to Canarsie, then you're pretty much SOL and I can't help you any further. The reason why I bring up train schedules is because once doing research for a train simulation game, and before you ask me, yes I do love sim games, but that's a story for another day. Anyways, while doing said research, I came across a game that was very famous in Japan and surprised that it didn't get brought over to the West. That game is Densha De Go 64, or Go by Train 64 for his little translation. Densha De Go 64 is just one of many installments in a long-running series that has been popular in Japan for many years. I don't know why it wasn't released in the West, but I can speculate a couple of reasons out of it. It's simple actually. All of the train lines in the game are in Japan. Unless you've been in Japan yourself, you wouldn't know the relative locations of the stations within the game. The second reason is because translations. There's a lot of text within this game, specific to the signals and speed limits within the game. Luckily, a group of fans translated the game into English for us to dive into this rabbit hole of a series. Finally, and this is just my guess, but the final reason why the game was never imported is because they will have to use American and European train systems, and that will cost extra development time for Taito. I could be talking out of my ass for that reasoning. Designed for rail fans in mind like me, this game aims to deliver on the authentic train driving experience with an arcade twist into it. Hell, it is quite astonishing that a game can emulate the full train driving experience. Especially on a console like the N64, you would expect this game to be on a competitor like the PlayStation 1. To no surprise however, there is a PlayStation 1 version of this game, which has a bit more features like graphics and such. But for this review, we are going to focus on the N64 version. The goal of Densha De Go is to drive the train to each station marked on the map when you select the train line. Simple enough, right? That is where you're wrong, because like the train service in Japan, you are expected to run on the timetable that the game gives to you. If you didn't know, Japan has a strict schedule when it comes to arrivals and departures, especially during the crazy rush hours when people are commuting to work. Drivers are under a strict mandate of 30-second stop durations just by looking at this train schedule I found on Reddit. Timetables are so strict, train crews don't even have time to commit seppuku out of all things because of these train delays. I guess they have to live with that shame now. However, I do leave you out with this. If you want to see how train drivers are psychologically affected because of these delays, look up the Amagasaki derailment in 2005. Control of the train is easy to understand but hard to master. We will get into that soon, just let me explain the controls. The main controls you want to be using is the D-pad and the A and B buttons. The D-pad is the accelerator for the train and has 5 levels of speed for you to use, with 5 being the highest speed and 0 for cruise control when driving. B is the obligatory brake button. I mean, what else does the letter B stand for? The brakes have 9 levels to them, each affecting the speed of the train the higher you go. 9 is the emergency brakes, indicated by the letter E. I'm highly against for using them because you get points docked off for using it, unless you're screwing up that badly, but there should be no reason to use it. Brake level A should be your max. A is to release the brakes, which is self-explanatory. Then you got your C buttons, which controls the horns for the train. The only time you ever use is to honk whenever you're about to cross a bridge or enter a tunnel, since they give extra time whenever you do so. Besides those buttons and pausing, the rest of the buttons are useless. There is another controller you can use which is exclusive to the game alone. I don't have it myself, but I would like to have this controller down the line. As you can see by this image, it looks like the Astra Controls to a train. It's for those players who want that authentic experience. I mean, it's the closest thing to driving one without the whole training program to be a driver itself. You got the accelerator on the left hand side of the controller and the brake on the right hand side. Simple controls as I stated before. Each scenario in this game is separated by train lines, each having their own destination and whether they are local or express. I honestly prefer the express trains because you don't have to meticulously control the train to abide by the signals since there are very little of them. Here's how each scenario works. You start at the first station and they give you a map of the stations you are supposed to stop at. Once the cap signal light turns on, you can release the brakes and turn up the accelerator. I've been working on the railroad all the livelong day. I've been working on the railroad just to pass the time away. Fucking nailed it, yeah! Now you're finally on your way. The HUD gives you a lot of details on the current situation. You got your odometer, which shows you how fast you're going, and you got your distance, which shows you how far to the next station is. The schedule time is on the top along with the current time, and your score is on the top middle. There's quite a bit to take in, so I'll break it down for you. See, your goal is to make it to the next station with the set time and obstacles that are given to you. What kind of obstacles are we talking about? The dreaded train signals. Yeah, kill me now with those signals. Ugh. Sprinkled throughout the tracks are signals to provide an advance warning of instructions regarding the driver's authority to proceed. There are your common speed limit signals, which tells you what is the highest speed the train is supposed to be going. Simple enough. What sucks about them is that one moment you're going so fast at 120 km per hour, only for the speed to come up and lower your speed to 70 km per hour. which depending on the signal can trigger the automatic braking system or you lose seconds of the time allotted to you. Besides the speed limit signals, there are your signals to use your horn usually used to when going through tunnels, bridges, or railroad crossings. Gray warnings to tell you how steep a hill is when going up or down. This affects speed, so you have to adjust accordingly. Then you got your traffic signals with the obligatory green, yellow, and red lights. Disobey any of these and you lose seconds. You've heard me say seconds a lot, so why not introduce you to the scoring system in this game? The time allotted section on the top middle of the HUD is your score. For every mistake you do, you lose time out on this. When you reach 0 seconds, your ride stops and you have to start the line all over again. Examples like reaching a station late can reduce your time for each second you are late. Ignoring signals because you're an incompetent driver also reduces time. Overshooting your stop is a big loss of time because for every meter you are off, you lose seconds. If you can't tell, managing everything in this game can get borderline absurd to the point that you can think the game is working against you most of the time. In hindsight, this gives you some perspective on what actual train drivers have to deal with on a daily basis. Props to them. This doesn't give the game the benefit of the doubt for being outrageously difficult. The game wants you to be so precise with whatever you are doing that you might as well call yourself a scientist, since precision is the key word. Even if you are going a bit fast for the schedule, the in-game guide tells you to slow down. It's not my fault that I'm being efficient with getting to my stops. Don't even get me started with stopping at a station. One thing I can give credit to Taito is how these virtual trains function like their real life counterparts, but holy crap, it is mentally rough just to stop at a station. It's like so many things running in my mind when I approach the station. It's like there is no clear-cut method for me on how to perfectly stop a train. Do I go in slow and risk some time being taken off, or do I put in a bit more gas when going into a station? You have to plan these things a couple of meters ahead, so foresight is the key to this game. Not to mention, some trial and error and some memorization can go a long way. It's tedious to the degree when the game wants you to have a margin of error the size of a hair follicle. Given with how great the simulation is, the graphics look very outdated. Look at the character models for the people on these stations. They look like heavily compressed JPEG images and that wouldn't fly by with today's standards. I get that they were trying to emulate the real life neighborhoods in Japan, but 64 bits can only go so far. Let's take a look at an example in Railfan for the PS3. Instead of modeling neighborhoods and many assets, the game uses real video footage as gameplay. Just a fun fact I wanted to point out. The audio department at least makes up for the outdated graphics. If I were to tell you to close your eyes and just listen to the audio, you can at least tell by the sounds alone that you're playing a train simulation. Hell, in one of the express lines, they got a little jingle to tell the riders to pay attention to the announcer. Little touches like that can tickle the fancy of a rail fan. With all that being said, here's my final summation. While outdated, Densha De Go 64 is a perfect experience to be playing if you want to get that full train ride experience. Hell, if you don't want to be playing with the actual N64 controller, you could always import the controller that Daito made specifically for the game alone. However, the downfall of this game is due to the fact that the game wants it to be so perfect to the nth degree that you might as well just stop playing the game because of how it kills the experience. And that's how I want my simulations to be. I want to be corrected rather than just judged. Hence why my final score, Densha De Go 64, deserves a out of 10. Also, a little bit of an update though. Sorry if I get a little bit off topic. This is post-review, of course, but this is going to be my final video before I do my hiatus, of course. So, I'm going to be gone till like the beginning of June. It's because I posted it all on Twitter. So, I'll probably leave a link to the tweets if anything, but I'll probably post a screenshot somewhere, anything. But yeah, this is going to be my last review until I get back from my hiatus, of course. So, yeah, I'll see you guys then, and don't miss me too much. See you guys.